In today's fast, moving world, full of notifications, distractions, noise, and expectations, our inner world is often the first casualty. We chase success, we chase validation, we chase clarity in chaos. Yet we forget one truth: peace is not found outside of us, it's cultivated within. Shi Heng Yi, a Shaolin master, teaches us that silence is not the absence of sound, but the absence of disturbance within. True peace does not mean avoiding the noise, it means becoming so centered, so rooted, that the world cannot shake you. We must ask ourselves, are we reacting or responding? Are we living from the outside in or the inside out? To find stillness, we must return to the breath, the body, the now, to return to ourselves. Master Shi Heng Yi reminds us that the mind, when left unchecked, creates its own suffering. But through discipline, mindfulness, and intention, we can turn our attention inward, and there lies the gate to peace. We are not here to escape the world, we are here to rise above it, with clarity, purpose, and calm. Because the storm may rage around us, but inside there is silence, there is strength, there is peace. Many people believe that inner peace is something you stumble upon, like a hidden place you accidentally discover in a quiet forest, or a magical moment when all the noise suddenly fades away. But this is a misunderstanding. Inner peace is not an external destination, nor is it a passive experience that happens by chance. It is something that must be consciously built, nurtured, and maintained from within. Shi Heng Yi teaches that peace is a result of consistent, intentional practice. Just as the body is shaped by training, the mind is shaped by our daily habits, thoughts, and actions. If we constantly expose our mind to chaos, negativity, and distraction, it will mirror that unrest. But if we deliberately create space for stillness through meditation, breathing, movement, or silence, we begin to train our mind in the art of calm. Peace is a discipline, not a luxury. It is a skill, not a gift. In a noisy world filled with constant input, from news, notifications, pressure, and opinions, it becomes even more crucial to reclaim our focus and direct our attention inward. Cultivating inner peace means making choices, the choice to pause instead of react, to reflect instead of judge, and to let go instead of cling. It requires work, it requires patience, and most of all, it requires responsibility, because no one else can give us peace. We must become the architects of our own inner stillness. Many people associate silence with the absence of sound, a quiet room, a secluded mountain, or a place far from the chaos of city life. But this kind of silence, while helpful, is only surface level. True silence, the kind that brings inner peace and clarity, does not depend on the world around us. It lives within us, and it is entirely possible to experience it even in the busiest, noisiest environments. Shi Heng Yi reminds us that silence is not about shutting out the noise of the world, but quieting the noise within ourselves. This noise, the racing thoughts, the constant inner chatter, the worry, the judgment, the fear, is what keeps us unsettled. Even in complete physical silence, our minds can be louder than ever. That's why we must shift our understanding. Silence is not about the ears, it's about the mind. To access this inner silence, we need to develop a deep sense of awareness. We must become observers of our thoughts instead of being entangled in them. The more we practice stillness, not just physical stillness, but mental stillness, the more we realize that true silence isn't empty. It's full of insight, presence, and power. It's the space where we reconnect with our true selves, beyond the distractions and labels. This kind of inner silence cannot be found by escaping the world. It comes from mastering the mind, learning to detach from the constant stream of thoughts, and recognizing that we are more than the noise inside our heads. It's not about what's happening around you. It's about your relationship with what's happening. You can be in a crowded train station or in a heated meeting and still experience inner stillness if your mind is clear, centered, and free from inner disturbance. That is the silence that Shi Heng Yi speaks of, a deep, grounded quiet that remains unshaken, no matter what surrounds you. At first, the idea that discipline leads to freedom may seem contradictory. How can setting strict rules, routines, and limits actually make us feel freer? Isn't freedom the ability to do whatever we want, whenever we want? But this is where many people misunderstand the concept. According to Shi Heng Yi, true freedom is not the absence of rules, but the presence of inner control. Discipline is the very foundation upon which real freedom is built. When we lack discipline, we become slaves to our impulses, we react instead of choosing, we indulge in distractions instead of focusing. We drift through life without purpose, easily influenced by our environment, our emotions, and other people's opinions. Without discipline, our mind becomes like an untrained animal, chaotic, restless, and untrustworthy. But with discipline, we begin to shape our lives intentionally. We become the master of our habits rather than the victim of them. Shi Heng Yi often speaks about the Shaolin way, where every action, from breathing to walking to eating, is done with awareness and structure. This structure doesn't confine, it liberates, it creates mental clarity, emotional balance, and physical strength. It sharpens our focus and deepens our resilience. Discipline allows us to say no to short-term pleasure in favor of long-term peace. It gives us the strength to wake up early, to meditate when the mind wants to wander, to stay calm in moments of anger, and to push forward when comfort is pulling us back. These small acts of control, repeated daily, lead to profound transformation. Over time, this inner structure becomes like the steel frame of a building. It keeps us steady even when storms rage outside. And ironically, once we have built that strong internal foundation through discipline, we gain more freedom, not less. Freedom from doubt, freedom from regret, freedom from compulsive behavior, freedom from the need for approval. So while the undisciplined may appear free on the surface, it is the disciplined who are truly free, because they are no longer ruled by their environment, their emotions, or their ego. One of the most powerful shifts we can make in life is learning the difference between reacting and responding. At first glance, these two words might seem similar. They both involve action in the face of a situation, but they come from entirely different places within us. A reaction is impulsive, emotional, and often unconscious. A response is thoughtful, measured, and rooted in awareness. Shi Heng Yi emphasizes this distinction as a core part of inner mastery. When we react, we give away our power. We become puppets of our environment, triggered by someone's words, thrown off balance by unexpected events, and caught in the constant swing of emotions. In this state, we are no longer in control. We are merely surviving, bouncing from one reaction to another. This way of living is exhausting and unstable. It creates conflict in our relationships, guilt in our hearts, and turmoil in our minds. But to respond means to pause. It means to take a breath before you speak, to reflect before you move, and to consider before you judge. It doesn't mean suppressing your feelings, but becoming aware of them and choosing what to do with them. This moment of pause is where your power lives, the power to choose peace over anger, clarity over confusion, wisdom over impulse. Shi Heng Yi teaches that the gap between stimulus and response is where growth happens. That gap may be only a few seconds long, but with training, those seconds become a space of awareness, and in that space you get to decide, who do I want to be in this moment? What outcome do I want to create? What energy am I contributing? This is especially important in today's fast-paced, emotionally charged world. When news spreads instantly, opinions fly freely, and emotional triggers are everywhere, The ability to respond rather than react becomes a form of inner strength. It separates the wise from the impulsive, the peaceful from the restless. To respond is to live with intention. It's to move through life with a sense of calm presence, knowing that your actions are not dictated by others, but guided by your own values and inner balance. This is what it means to be grounded, not in control of everything outside you, but fully in control of what happens inside you. Breathing is something we all do every moment of every day, yet we rarely notice it. It happens automatically in the background, like a forgotten rhythm that sustains our life. But according to Shi Heng Yi and many ancient wisdom traditions, the breath is far more than a biological process. It is a bridge connecting the body and the mind, the present moment and our inner peace. When we learn to consciously engage with our breath, we gain access to an anchor that can steady us in even the most turbulent storms. In a world that constantly pulls our attention outward, with noise, pressure, and distraction, the breath offers a way back to ourselves. It is always with us, always available, and always honest. The way we breathe reveals how we feel. Short, shallow breaths when we're anxious or tense. Deep, slow breaths when we're calm and present. By paying attention to the breath, we become more aware of what's happening inside us, even when the outside world feels overwhelming. Shi Heng Yi teaches that breathing is not just a technique, it is a practice of returning to the now, returning to the body, returning to stillness. When we feel scattered, frustrated, or lost, one of the simplest and most effective things we can do is to stop and take a conscious breath, not a forced breath, not a dramatic one, but a gentle, deliberate inhale, followed by a full, releasing exhale. In that moment, the mind begins to settle, the body softens, and our awareness sharpens. This is not a mystical experience. It is profoundly practical. The breath grounds us in the present moment, where life is actually happening. Not in the worries of the past or the fears of the future, but right here, where clarity and peace can exist. It gives us the space to observe rather than react, to choose rather than be consumed. It is, as Shi Heng Yi often expresses, the first doorway to mastering the self. Over time, with practice, this simple act of mindful breathing becomes more than a technique. It becomes a habit, and eventually, a way of being. Whether we are standing in traffic, facing a challenge, or preparing for something important, we can always come back to the breath. It's like returning home, to a calm, steady place that's untouched by the noise of the world. Our minds are constantly busy. From the moment we wake up, thoughts begin to flood in, some useful, many unnecessary. We think about what we should have done yesterday, what might go wrong tomorrow, how we're being perceived, what we lack, what we fear. It's an endless stream, a non-stop inner dialogue that often runs unchecked. Shi Heng Yi teaches that this ongoing chatter is one of the biggest barriers to finding inner peace, and the first step to quieting the mind is learning to detach from mental noise. Mental noise is not the same as conscious thought. It's the automatic, habitual commentary that fills our head, the doubts, judgments, comparisons, assumptions, and fears that play on repeat. We don't choose these thoughts consciously. They arise from past experiences, conditioning, societal expectations, and unchecked emotions. And if we're not aware, we become entangled in them, mistaking them for truth, allowing them to control our behavior, mood, and identity. But here lies a crucial insight. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind them. Just because a thought arises doesn't mean it's real, relevant, or worth holding on to. This simple realization is the beginning of mental freedom. Detachment doesn't mean ignoring your thoughts or denying your feelings. It means observing them without becoming them. It's like watching clouds pass across the sky without chasing or resisting them. You acknowledge them, but you don't identify with them. Shi Heng Yi emphasizes the practice of mindfulness as the tool for cultivating this detachment. By becoming the watcher of your mind, you begin to notice patterns, how certain situations trigger specific thoughts, how your mind clings to negativity more than positivity, how easily it wanders away from the present moment. With this awareness, you develop space between the thought and the self, and in that space, you gain the power to choose which thoughts to feed and which to let go. Detaching from mental noise is not about escaping reality. It's about seeing it more clearly. When your mind is cluttered with constant noise, it's like trying to see your reflection in a disturbed pond. But when you detach, when you let the thoughts settle, clarity begins to emerge. You start to think with intention instead of compulsion. You speak with purpose instead of insecurity. You act from a place of truth instead of confusion. This detachment takes time and consistent practice. It's a process of unlearning, of becoming less reactive, less attached to ego, and more rooted in presence. Life is unpredictable. We face pressure, chaos, change, and challenge on a daily basis. At any moment, we might be swept up in the whirlwind of demands, distractions, or emotional upheaval. The outer world is full of storms, loud, fast, and often beyond our control. But one of Shi Heng Yi's most profound teachings reminds us that while the storm may rage around us, it doesn't have to rage within us. Most people live in constant reaction to the outside world. When things go wrong, when plans fall apart, when people criticize, when fear arises, we allow those external events to create internal turmoil. We become agitated, anxious, angry, or afraid, and without realizing it, we lose our center. Our inner peace gets hijacked by circumstances we cannot control, but Shi Heng Yi teaches that our true strength lies not in resisting the storm, but in realizing that the storm is not us. This is the core of inner mastery, recognizing that your inner space, your mind, your heart, your breath, is sacred. It doesn't have to mirror the chaos around it. Just as a mountain remains unmoved by wind and rain, you too can learn to remain grounded even when life becomes turbulent. This doesn't mean becoming numb or indifferent. It means cultivating a state of inner awareness so stable, so rooted, that nothing outside can pull you away from your center. The external world will never be fully quiet. There will always be noise, people's opinions, social pressures, financial uncertainty, personal loss, unexpected change. But these are conditions, not commands. You get to choose whether they define your inner state. You get to decide whether you will allow the external storm to become an internal one. Shi Heng Yi often compares the human mind to a glass of water. When the water is stirred up, it becomes cloudy. You can't see clearly. You can't think clearly. But when the water settles, clarity returns. In the same way, when your inner world is still, even if the outer world is in chaos, you can see things as they are. You can act with wisdom rather than emotion, presence rather than panic. This kind of inner stability does not come from withdrawing from the world or hoping life gets easier. It comes from deepening your relationship with your own inner self. It comes from creating space each day to return to silence, to breathe, to stillness. Because in that stillness, you begin to understand, peace is not found in perfect circumstances. It is found in the strength to remain calm despite them. In a world that moves fast, demands much, and rarely pauses, the journey inward is the most courageous path we can take. Shi Heng Yi's life and teachings remind us that we are not here to escape life, but to meet it with calm, clarity, and deep presence. Inner peace is not reserved for the few. It is available to anyone willing to look within. It is cultivated through awareness. It is protected through discipline. It is revealed through stillness. The world will remain noisy. But when you learn to respond with mindfulness, breathe with intention, detach from mental noise, and return to your inner center, you begin to live from a place that no chaos can touch. Let the storm rage outside, because inside you there is a quiet mountain. Unmoved, unshaken, alive, that is the essence of true peace. That is the philosophy of a life well lived.